But one day, no. No. I play Security Breach. Yeah, I love me some Security Breach. But I ain't playing no. I ain't playing FNAF 1. I definitely not playing FNAF 4. De- I ain't playing FNAF 4. I ain't touching that. That's cool. Do it or monkey take over, bro. I would rather, I would rather have to play all of Dark Deception in actual darkness than to touch FNAF 4. Even download it, not even just to play, to download it.
Today's story.
No, no. Let's see the videos. Let's see the catalog, shall we? Worth death story on the internet. Let's go.
Today, we're going to look at 3 places.
This is by Mr. Ballen. Mr. Ballen. With 5.61 million subscribers. Alright. Alright. Let's lock in. Let's tee up, if you will. We gotta watch a full screen. Get all that Balden goodness.
You can't go, and people who went there anyways. But
Right.
before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious
I'm
delivered
not.
in story format,
Okay,
you come to the right place because that's all
I sure
we do,
did.
and we upload once or twice every week.
Do you think Mr. Ballen be like actually be playing basketball? You think that name came from him playing basketball? I think he was like really balling on the court. He's like Mr. Ballen. He's like that shit kind of fire. I stole it.
If that's of interest to you, please offer to do the like button's eyeliner, but use a wide tip black Sharpie. Also, please subscribe.
Mr. Ballen is the only dude I know that will say something like that and then go immediately to talk about how someone got mutilated by a machine. He would be like, make sure to go give the like button a high five, but after he walks past you, make sure to look behind him with the disgusted look. So Teresa was 5 years old when she got dismembered by a machine. Like Jesus Christ, give me like
Subscribe to our channel and turn on
bridge a
all
little bit.
notifications
Give me a
so
segue.
you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories.
Mr. Wallen, W. Magellan.
If you hop in a boat just off the coast of Aberdeen, Scotland, and you cruise eastward, after about 7 hours, depending on your speed and the weather, you would come across this massive man-made structure jutting up out of the ocean. It looks like a cross between a construction site and a corporate office building sitting on top of 100-foot-tall metal stilts. It's called Magellan, and it is an offshore oil rig, and it will remain in place until all the oil has been sucked up in that area. The people who work
Isn't that
often
wild,
for weeks
the fact that
or
we be
months
doing
at
that?
a time.
Isn't that crazy that we just be like taking oil from the ground and just being like, well, we're done here. Time to move. Like we really be devious. Like we be devious with what we do to this planet for real.
On rigs like
Remember, save the bees.
Magellan are known as roughnecks, and they have one of, if not.
Oh yeah, did we ever change the title? Are we still on Dark Deception? We should change that to YouTube. Is YouTube a game? Is YouTube what we switch it to? I don't even know. I ain't gonna lie. Oh, just chat. Oh, my fault. I believe in you. I believe in you, Flash. You can change it. Did you change the title too? Spooky fun time with the monkey maze, man. That's still crazy. But like, okay, can we talk about it though? I really beat that level in under 30 minutes. I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting to have to come back next stream and play it again. I didn't expect to beat it like that. So the fact I did was kind of goated. I ain't gonna lie. I was kind of goated. I want to figure a way to hook up my PS5 to my PC and then play some PS5 games. Because we can definitely play some Shifu. I mean, even though I beat it, but we can play through it again. I got some games we can play. That'll be tough. That'll be tough. Spooky video reaction, perhaps. Why do you sound unsure? You sounding unsure is concerning to me, but I trust in your unsureness. All right, all right. Enough distractions.
The most dangerous job in the world. All exterior surfaces on these offshore rigs are always slick, either with water or oil, and so there is a constant risk of falling, sometimes hundreds of feet. If you're up on a higher platform, you could fall to a lower platform, which could be fatal, or you could fall clean off the rig all the way to the ocean 100 plus feet below.
Damn.
If you add in some bad windy weather, the risk of falling increases tenfold. Also, the crude oil that these roughnecks are drilling for is highly combustible, and so fires are a huge concern as well. And if that wasn't risky enough, there's also this phenomenon known as a blowout, where basically the oil well that the drill is actually drilling into will just explode. Now, all rigs have
That'd
some
just be
sort of
something to happen.
mitigating equipment to try to save themselves in case this occurs, but in reality, if it happens and you are unfortunately near the drill when it happens, you are likely to be killed or maimed. While the downsides of working on
Yeah.
an oil rig are fairly obvious, the upsides are.
Let me ask something. Would you rather be in Dark Deception, like how we were just playing, or be on one of these oil rigs on a windy day? But when you work here, it's only on a windy day. You only work on windy days. Cause I ain't gonna lie, like if I'm in Dark Deception, I can like do whatever I can. I'm whooping a monkey's ass. I ain't gonna lie to you. I might have to weave. I also feel like an oil rig wouldn't be too bad if you like worked in. I guess there is no indoors to work in, huh? I guess if that was the case, everyone just worked inside. Bro, that's like look. There's railings. Like there's clearly railings, so that's crazy that like people be just falling off.
Too. Namely, your pay is fantastic. In
Ah,
2000,
for-
a 41-year-old
How much you
father
get
of
paid?
two named Gordon Moffat was a roughneck working on the Magellan. His primary job was to perform maintenance on the drill. Now, these offshore rigs work great most of the time, but they do have a habit of breaking down fairly often. And for a drilling company, anytime
I'd just
they
be
are
a
not
potato.
sucking out crude.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Go ahead. I'll wait. Go photo of the offshore oil drill. Wait, this whole thing's a drill?
Crude oil, they're losing
That's
money.
crazy.
And so it was just a known thing when you worked on one of these rigs that as soon as there is an issue that causes the drill to stop working, it must be fixed immediately, whether it's day, night, horrible weather, good weather, it didn't matter. It had to be fixed right away. And so on the night of October 9th that year, Gordon had just gotten back to his quarters to end the day when he got a call on his radio that he was actually needed to come back out to fix a problem that had stopped the drill. Now, Gordon was a seasoned roughneck, and he had grown quite accustomed to these late-night calls to go out and fix things, and so he wasn't annoyed.
Nah.
He just put his stuff back.
If they call me after I done took my shoes off and sat down on my bed, I guess we lost the bag. I ain't going back in. I took. It's okay. Taking off your shoes is like one of those things like turning off your computer, right? That's like turning off your system, and then someone going like, "Oh, get back on." It's like, I mean, I kind of already just got comfortable. You know what I mean? We kind of out of luck. He's a better man than me.
back on, turned around, and he headed out the door. When Gordon got to the main deck, which is this wide open metal platform right in the middle of the rig where the drill actually passes down through it on its way to the ocean, when he got to the main deck, he was met by some of his co-workers who told him where he would need to go. The cabling that needed fixing was located right below the main deck. However, it was not accessible from the main deck. In order for Gordon to get to it, he would need to go down to the next lowest platform from the main deck. Basically, he would need to hop in an elevator and go down one floor. And from this lower deck, the crew on the main deck would lower down a harness attached to a long wire. They would feed it down through this hole in the main deck platform called a mouse hole.
Okay. I don't think I said this to anyone, but I hate small places. I hate small spaces so much. I was at work, right, and I was cleaning this like little like shelf, but the shelf's like contained, so it was like a little square, and it was just really deep, and I had to like I was cleaning into the far back of it, so I was really in there. Like I'm like 5'11", so my whole torso was in there, and I wasn't even at the back. Like I was like using my arms like stretched to the very back. And then my coworker's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm cleaning the back." And he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "How far can you get in there, right?" So like I squeeze my body up in there, right? Now my legs are like to my not to my chest, but like they're tucked up, so I can like fully fit in this thing. And when I tell you, like for a split second, like when I was putting my legs back out, I felt my legs give a little bit resistance, and I almost lost my shit. I was like, I'm stuck. If I get stuck, I'll make sure everyone knows about it. Like this right here, like I don't know if anyone can fit in this, but I remember like there was a story about a guy getting stuck in a cave and it was facing down, so he was stuck head first, like tilted like down like this. Bro, I couldn't be me.
It was
I'll
about
be
10
dead
inches
already.
across, and they would feed it down, and he would grab the harness, he would put it on,
Oh, I
and
think
then
it's
he
just
would
for the harness,
signal
never
up
mind.
to the main deck crew, who could literally see him through this mouse hole. They would turn around and they would signal somebody called the hoist operator. And they were located above the main deck, slightly back. They couldn't actually see Gordon, so they're relying on communications with the people on the main deck. And the hoist operator would start their winch, and a winch basically reels in the wire that was connected to the harness that was on Gordon. And so once the hoist operator
And
was
this is all
informed,
at
he'd turn
night?
on the winch, and then Gordon would be raised up until he could access these cables, and then he'd do his maintenance and be lowered back down, and that would be it. Now, Gordon and the crew had done...
No. I forgot to say something. Okay, so about me going to that whole the cabinet little thing in my job. So my coworker calls this other coworker of mine. I don't really talk to people like that in my job besides people that I work with in the kitchen or like my managers. And he calls like one of the servers. And I come to find out that while I was in that cabinet, she took a picture of me put on her story, bro. I didn't even get like a shout out. That's crazy. And you know what's even crazier? She was there for like a second. Like I remember hearing him go like, "Oh, come back here." He's like, "Who's that in there?" It's like, "Oh, that's me." Or, "Oh, haha." And then it's not like she walked away. That means she walked up. Just like, damn. Still didn't get a shout out though. Like that's crazy.
on maintenance using this winch system many times before, so this was a very routine fix. So Gordon made his way from the main deck down to the slightly lower deck, and he looked up at the mouse hole, and he watched as the main deck crew members lowered the harness with the wire attached to it down through the mouse hole. And so Gordon grabbed the harness, he put it around his waist, and he secured it. And after he was sure it was on correctly, he signaled up to the crew on the main deck that he was ready to start, and they in turn turned around. They flagged the hoist operator, who started the winch. And so very slowly, Gordon was lifted off the platform he was standing
Hey, wait, I
on,
gotta be like Mr.
and he was
Ballen.
brought up after several...
Wait. I'd be like Mr. Ballen. If I'm not like Mr. Ballen, I don't want to be like anything. Me and him are twins now.
minutes, all the way up about 10 feet to access these cables. And as soon as he was parallel with them, he waved to the main deck crew, who were not far from him at this point, and he said, "I'm good." And so they turned around, they told the hoist operator, who stopped the winch. And so Gordon got his tools out and he began working on these cables, and the whole time he's trying to stay in one place because the wind is whipping through and he's kind of dangling and swinging around. And then eventually he finishes the repair, the cables are good, and so he signals the crew on the main deck through the mouse hole that he was good to go. "You can lower me back down now." And so the main deck crew, they turn, they wave to the hoist operator to go ahead and lower Gordon, and the hoist operator, he gives the thumbs up and he starts the winch. However, the hoist operator accidentally forgot to switch the direction of the winch. And so when he started it again, instead of the winch spooling the wire out and lowering Gordon, it continued to reel the wire in, pulling Gordon upward. Now, the winch did not move very quickly, and so it wasn't like wire in.
I'm sorry,
pulling
but does
Gordon
this say
upward.
real footage of a winch? I mean, Mr. Ballen, you clearly doing something right, bro. You're doing something right. You got 4 million views. But I know what a winch is. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't think you need to tell me that was a real. I was gonna be like, is that CGI? Is that animation? I love this. I love this animated movie of a winch. Source, sauce, link.
Upward. Now, the winch did not move very quickly, and so it wasn't like Gordon is rocketing up towards the mouse hole. However, this problem was immediately recognized by Gordon and the main deck crew, and so they're frustrated. They're yelling up at the hoist operator saying, "Stop, stop, stop, reverse the winch." They're all waving and flagging this guy down, but the hoist operator, after he had hit start on the winch, had just kind of
Sauce
turned
now
around
would die.
because this is a routine thing they've done a million
Facts.
times before.
Sorry,
And so
Mr.
he's
Ballen, you
not
gotta tell me.
looking at the crew on the main deck, so he has no idea what's going on. And it was so windy and loud that night on board the rig that he couldn't hear their cries. And so the wind.
Okay, this may sound dumb. This may sound stupid. But like, I need to visit. I need to visit one of these, bro, because it's like, how loud can it be? You know what I'm saying? Like, how loud can it be to the point where you don't hear someone yelling? Because I imagine they're probably a good amount away from each other. But I feel like, at least me, if I hear any type of words, I'm really like looking for it. You know, because especially when I have a job that's like life or death for somebody, I feel like I'm gonna be on my p's and q's. Yeah, right. I feel like the more I hear like any type of like noise, like, I'm like, I'm gonna need to figure out who said it. You know, like at least my first instinct is like look at the people that are gonna tell me if the person that I'm in control of is okay. You know what I mean? Because I feel like if you have a job that has someone's life in the balance, and like there's like a third party there that like gives me the information, I'm gonna be trained on them. You know, like I don't know, why don't they have like walkie talkies? You'd think like you would think being on an oil rig like this noisy, especially at night, you think you have like walkie talkies or something, like something to like communicate, or at least like, I mean, not a flare gun because that that just sound good. Like yeah, flare gun on an oil rig. That sounds like a perfect combination.
Winch just continued to reel in the wire, slowly raising Gordon closer and closer to the mouse hole. Now, Gordon could not get out of his harness unless he was on the platform below. So there was no way to escape the situation he was in. And so Gordon, after a few seconds of this not stopping and him continuing upward, he starts screaming. He's not annoyed anymore. He's terrified. And so is the crew on the main deck. They are now frantically screaming.
I'm sure. Okay, this is worth death stories. So I'm sure this man Gordon died. So rest in peace, Gordon. F for respect. But you were like, I'm like to imagine like he's like being hung by the harness, and he's like, oh, Randy, never can do his job right. Surely he will. Surely he will fix this mistake at some point. um, surely Randy surely Randy isn't gonna let me hit that mouse hole and probably get yanked through a small crevice. Randy, you know, like I feel like the moment would happen, I would be kind of scared. Cause like if it's not supposed to happen, especially if it's not supposed to happen, it's like what what if Randy did it on purpose? What if Randy did this on purpose? Whoa. Cause like I imagine like this is a very serious job, so I don't see you messing this up that easy.
get the hoist operator
I
to
don't see it.
stop the winch, but nothing is working. And so one of the main deck crew members, sensing that they need to do something different to get this guy's attention,
Okay.
he runs
plan.
away from where the mouse hole is to this nearby phone.
Okay.
And this phone is connected up to the hoist operator station.
Okay.
He picks it up and it starts dialing. Up in the hoist operator station, he's still not paying attention when the phone rings. He grabs the phone, puts it to his ear, and immediately he's hit with screams to stop the winch. And so the hoist operator, totally confused, whips around and hits stop on the winch. But it was too late. Just a few moments earlier, Gordon had finally been pulled all the way up right to the entrance of the underside of this mouse hole. And as he reached this hole, he tried to position himself in a vertical position so that maybe he could slip his upper body into the hole and he could just kind of slide through the hole. He'd still be hurt by it, but it would limit the damage. However, because of his harness being on his waist right in front of him, he couldn't get himself into a vertical position. He could only lay back in a horizontal one. And so when he reached the underside of the main deck and he's looking right at this mouse hole, he just put his arms and his legs out and tried to push himself back as if he could fight the winch and keep himself from going into this hole. But there was nothing he could do, and so his pelvis first was pulled into the 10-inch hole. And as his body begins to literally break...
This may be a bad taste. I'm sorry. Gordon, rest in peace, my brother. I hope you're flying high, but I hope you ain't soaring low. But like, just imagine, like, the winch is still coming up, right? And he's like, wait, if he's already past it, then what's coming up the wrench? And it's just this man's Gordon dingling, just his dingling through the mouse hole. That would fuck me up. I don't need like a few months off. Sounds painful? Yeah. I bet it is. It's like a reverse push-up. He's like holding his body. He's like trying to push away the building, but can't do it. Man, I could never, bro. If my job ever asked me to do some random extracurricular shit like that, I'm looking them dead in their face like, you want me to do what? How much are you paying me? 45 an hour? Give me a harness. But like, still, that's great. He must have really needed that money. He must have really needed it.
In half, he's screaming out in pain, and then by the time the hoist operator had hit stop, Gordon was already deceased, and only a section of his torso actually made it up through the hole. Gordon's company was found guilty of being blatantly delinquent on many safety protocols, and so they were fined £60,000, and then they paid...
They were fined only $81,000.
On many safety protocols.
Only
so
$81,000?
£60,000.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. I ain't gonna lie. If my family member died to like in this kind of way because like they were neglectful or whatever, I'm going for a mill. You know what I mean? I'm going for a mill and some change. I want $1,060,000 so I can buy a $60 game and still have $1 million.
And then they paid an undisclosed amount to Gordon's family.
Oh, okay.
Before we get into our next story, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Current. Current is the future.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ballen. I love your hat, bro. I love your beard, bro.
In October of 1994,
at least make me a
middle-aged
millionaire.
man named Ivan, who lived in Estonia,
But
which
that's
is a country
facts,
in
that's
northern
facts.
Europe, was walking in this forest looking for firewood.
Real photo of a similar town in Estonia. Okay.
This forest butted up against the town he lived in, which was called Timiku, and so as a result of his proximity to it, he had spent a lot of time in these woods over the years. But in general, his exposure to this forest was just on the fringes. He would only look for firewood along the perimeter of the woods. But for whatever reason, that day he was just really having a hard time finding good firewood, And so at some point, he decided to just walk deeper into the woods to see if he would have luck in there. And so he turns and starts walking into the forest. And very quickly, when the town has kind of disappeared from view behind him, he looked around and kind of liked being in the woods. He didn't go for walks in the woods, and suddenly he was on this nice nature walk. And so he decided, you know what, I can wait on the firewood. I'll just walk in the forest for a little while longer and enjoy myself and kind of meditate. So he just continued walking deeper and deeper into the woods. And after walking for nearly an hour, just kind of mindlessly walking about, he sees up ahead there is very clearly a clearing, and then before the clearing is what looks like a chain link fence. Now, he's never been this deep into the woods before, so he has no idea what this is, but he's obviously curious, and so he decides he'll go see what it is. And so he continues walking closer and closer to what
I ain't gonna lie, when I was younger, we have these we have these like forests by our park where I live. And when I was younger, me and my friends used to go in there. We used to like go, like I remember vividly, like I used to come home with muddy shoes, and like I used to get in trouble because these were my school shoes. But like I was really on Craig of the Creek type time. I was really Craig of the Creek back in the day. But like it wasn't nothing crazy. It was like a little like stream. It was like just a little stream. It's like a creek. It was literally a creek. I could probably right now, like this day and age, I could probably run through there in like less than 10 minutes and get to the other side where like there's like an apartment complex. There wasn't like no full on woods, like no wolves type shit. There was a fox one time. That was pretty cool.
obviously is a chain link fence, and as he's getting closer to it, the trees around him are beginning to thin out. And suddenly, before he even reaches the fence, he gets a very clear view of what's on the other side. And it's this huge multi-story building that almost looks like a factory or some sort of government facility. And it's sitting maybe a couple 100 feet away from the fence, right in the middle of this property. And there's really nothing around it. It's just this cleared out big open area with this big building right in the middle. And there's a fence all the way around it. And so Ivan is totally intrigued by this. And so he walks right up to the fence, he grabs onto it, and he tries to look and figure out what this building is. But there's no clear signage on it, and there's no people anywhere. It's completely barren. There's nothing but this building. And then he notices there's obviously graffiti on the sides of this building, and the doors and windows appeared to be boarded up. And so this building, whatever it is clearly abandoned. And the first thought that goes through Ivan's head is scrap metal. Times were tough for Ivan and his family, and so he...
Who is this man Ivan, bro? Did I miss something? He's looking for firewood. Now he's looking for scrap metal. I thought this man was a caveman for a second. Like, bro, man's playing Rust in real life. Speaking of Rust, I'm going to get Rust. And when I get Rust, that shit is gonna be great. Now I'm gonna get Ark and Rust. Those two games are gonna be fun as hell. I need to get some of the boys to play that game with me, and it's gonna be perfect. It's gonna be amazing.
And his two brothers, they all lived together. They would go out and they would steal scrap metal and sell it for a little bit of extra cash to make ends meet and provide for their big family. And so he's looking at this big building thinking, you know, if I can get in there, I guarantee you there is some...
People be buying scrap metal? I might be just like Ivan. He might be just like me for real.
Metal that I can steal and I can sell. And so Ivan stayed at this fence just kind of staring at this building for a little while longer and continued to look around to make sure there weren't any people that he hadn't seen before. And after feeling satisfied that this really was a totally abandoned building, he turned around and began hustling back towards town. And when he finally made it to town, making sure to grab some firewood along the way, he rounded up his two brothers and he told them about this find in the forest. And they all very excitedly agreed that that night they would go right back out there and they would go inside the building and see what they could find. And so around 9 p.m. that night, the brothers met up and they had flashlights and a set of bolt cutters, and they headed into the nearby forest and they marched their way all the way up to this fence that Ivan had found earlier in the day. And they lifted their flashlights up and they scanned through the fence all over the property. And when they didn't see anyone, they put their flashlights down and one by one they climbed up and over this fence. And then once they were all on the other side, they began making their way up to this huge building sitting in the middle of the property. And when When they got up to this building, they confirmed it definitely looked like it was abandoned, except all of the doors and windows were sealed in such a way that even with bolt cutters, there was just no way to pry them open. They were
That's a
not
sign.
going to get inside this building. So after a little while of still trying to kind of smash their way into this building, the brothers all linked up and they decided, you know what, we're not getting in, and the longer we stay here, the better the chances are that we get caught. And so let's just head back. And so feeling totally dejected, they turn and they start walking back towards the fence they hopped in on. And as they're walking along, they're kind of shining their lights left and right and looking around. And off to the far right side of the property, there is this small shack that they had not noticed on their way in. And so the brothers look at each other and they're like, hey, you know, we're already on this side of the fence. We might as well go check it out and see what's inside of it. Maybe there's scrap metal in there. And so the
I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's just because I only got sisters, but like, I couldn't imagine doing this shit, especially with siblings. Like, if I was with the boys, sure, like this could be me, 100%. Like my siblings, I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to go home. I don't want to be here. It's ass. Like, but if I'm with my friends, right, I feel like they could really convince me to do this dumb shit. Like, they could really convince me to do it. Like, they could really be like, bro, look at that shack. Let's go in there. I'd be like, all right, let's go. I think I'm just easily brainwashed by my friends, low key. I might be brainwashed.
brothers turn and start making their way over to the shed, and when they get there, they discover it's only secured with a simple padlock on a wooden door. So they get their bolt cutters, they pop off the lock, they open up the door, and there's initially nothing inside. At least that's what they think. But they move something on the ground, and it reveals this stairwell that leads into this underground bunker.
Who's that
And now
beat
it's
on
the
there,
middle of the night
Batman?
on this abandoned property they've snuck into, and so there's some apprehension, but they shine their lights down the steps, and they didn't see any immediate hazards. And they're thinking, you know what? This is an adventure. Let's go down and see what's down there.
I respect
they
that.
all went down the steps.
I respect a good adventure. If okay, okay, if the that doesn't apply to the last guy, but if one of these guys go like on some crazy journey, running from demons or some shit, and then like they trip and fall and break their legs, like they tumble down a mountain and fall off a cliff and they get eaten by a tiger, and then like right before they die, like, oh, it was an adventure. I mean, bro, an adventure is an adventure, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you know, sometimes you just gotta do it, bro. That's the thing you gotta do in life. You just sometimes have to just do it. You can't be focused on like the troubles that come with it. Sometimes you just gotta do some shit and just see what happens.
And when they got down to the bottom, they turn the corner and they shine their light to see what's down here. And what was down there was this huge cellar that was full of scrap metal. There was metal all over the ground, and then there were also these shelves that went as far back as their lights could shine. And on the lower shelves, there were these weird square metal boxes that almost looked like briefcases. And then above those, on the top shelf, were 55-gallon aluminum drums. And in the brothers' experience,
Was it paint?
these drums were very, very valuable. Except they needed to make sure they weren't full of some liquid, because if they're full, they weigh like 500 pounds, and there's no way they'd be able to get them out. And then trying to open them up and spill whatever's inside of them is hazardous for a lot of reasons. And so they walked over to the first 55-gallon drum they saw, and they pushed it to see if it was empty. And the drum immediately rocked back and forth, echoing inside, indicating that it was empty. This was a huge, huge win. And so the brothers are totally amazed. They grab this first drum, they pull it off the shelf, and they wheel it over to the base of the steps. And then they go back to get another drum off the shelf. And they reach up,
they bag
grab
chasers.
another empty drum, and
Yeah.
as they're pulling it off,
Yeah.
it dislodges another 55-gallon drum that was nearby that was full of some liquid. So it weighed 500 pounds. And it comes crashing off the shelf, and it lands on Ivan's leg, pinning him to the ground. And immediately, the two other brothers pulled the drum off of Ivan, but it was obvious there had been significant damage done to his leg. Ivan couldn't even stand up anymore. And so the brothers are looking around thinking, man, this is an amazing haul, but if Ivan can't even walk, I mean, it's going to be a nightmare trying to haul this metal back while also supporting Ivan. And so they decided they would leave now, and they would wait for Ivan to heal up, and then they would come back and they would collect their amazing haul. And so the brothers, they reached down and they picked up whatever pieces of metal they could to just kind of stuff in their pockets. And then the two brothers supported Ivan and carried him up the stairs. And then they very slowly walked their way over to the fence. And then somehow the three of them got up and over the fence. And then very slowly they made their way all the way through the forest back to Tamiku. And when they got there, the two brothers helped Ivan get into his house, and they put him in his bed, and then Ivan went to sleep. The next morning, when Ivan got up, he was expecting to feel better, but in fact, his leg felt exponentially worse. And then over the course...
Man broke his leg that night, went to bed, thought he respawned like in Minecraft. Of course his leg's gonna hurt. What?
Of the next 72 hours, Ivan still believed if he just gutted it out and he waited, his leg would get better. But it just got worse and worse and worse. And so 4 days after this leg injury, Ivan was in so much pain, he couldn't do anything. And so he finally decided he had to go to the hospital. And so when he gets to the hospital, the doctor asks Ivan, what happened to your leg? And Ivan would tell him that, I was in the woods and a tree fell on my leg, because he didn't want to admit to trying to steal scrap metal. And so the doctors, they accepted this. It seemed totally reasonable based on what his injury looked like. And so they admitted him to the hospital. They put him in his hospital room. And right away, the doctors and nurses began administering all the treatments and things they would do for a crush injury. But it seemed like nothing was working. Over the course...
Okay, I have a prediction. There was something in that barrel. No, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, no, that's the only thing. Okay, so whatever was in that full barrel had to be something that contaminated him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it had to be something like, whoa, what is it? What is that thing that, like, kills your cells? The thing that, what was that place that Homer Simpson worked? Reactor, damn. Nuclear reactor. That's what I'm thinking of. What radioactive? It has to be something radioactive. It has to be something radioactive. I mean, unless it's like he like poked himself with a piece of the metal, like he just got like a tetanus. I don't even know what tetanus does. I know you get a shot for it, but I don't even know what it is. But like I feel like he has to be something either radioactive or like something to do with like the rust on the metal.
Course of the next several days, Ivan
or unless like a fucking chupacabra put a curse on him.
Worse and worse and worse, and swelling was going up, and overall Ivan's health just continued to deteriorate over his stay in the hospital. And then a week after being admitted to the hospital, so roughly 10 or 11 days after he was hurt, the doctors walked into his room and he was dead. His kidneys had just abruptly failed, and the doctors and nurses had...
I'm saying radiation. I'm putting my money on radiation.
Absolutely no idea why. And so they told the family, we don't know what happened to him. And so the family just had to collect Ivan's body, and then they had a funeral for him. But they're all thinking to themselves, how could this have happened? He hurt his leg, and then his kidneys failed? It didn't make any sense. But before
unless
they
he was like murdered,
any clarity on that, they were dealt another tragedy. The beloved family dog just kind of abruptly died. It was young, it was healthy, and so just like Ivan, it was like this totally unexpected death. And so once again, the family's asking, what's going on here? And then just a couple of days after that, Ivan's stepson came downstairs one morning complaining of feeling sick. And when his family looked at his hands, they were blistered and covered in boils and looked like he had just reached his hands into a fire or something. But he would tell his family, I didn't do that. I don't know what's going on with my hands. I don't know why I feel so sick. And so the family rushed the boy to the hospital. And naturally, the doctors asked him, how did your hands get this way? What happened to you? And the boy would say, I don't know. But over the course of this initial discussion with doctors, the boy would tell them that over the last couple of days, he had been sifting through his stepfather, Ivan's possessions, and he had actually been using some of Ivan's tools from his toolbox. Now, the doctors were already aware of the strangeness around Ivan's death, and they were aware of the sudden passing of the family dog, and now they're seeing this boy.
Okay. The more I thought about it, radiation, like, bro, I don't know how radiation works. I don't really know how it works. I remember I seen one thing was like radiation like kills your cells. Or like I remember I saw this one video about like a guy who got hit by radiation and like it killed all the cells in his body. So like he was slowly dying. Like he was basically dead the moment that radiation hit him, but like he just didn't know it yet because like his cells couldn't reproduce. So like he was just basically like deteriorating as like while moving. But like, how did the dog die and how the kid get sick? I mean, I understand he was using tools, but like I don't think the dog was using tools. You know what I mean? I don't think the dog was out here being handy manny. So I don't know how that really works. I haven't pieced that part together. But the dog, maybe the dog didn't even die from the radiation. Maybe the dog just got like hit by a squirrel or some shit.
Who is showing up with these strange symptoms for no particular reason, and so the doctors knew something was off. And so, on a hunch, they contacted the authorities and they told them what they thought. And then later that day, the authorities showed up at Ivan's family's house, and when they got out of the car, they were covered head to toe in white hazardous materials suits, and they told the family to evacuate the house for their safety. And then these people in suits got out these special wands and tools, and they marched into the family home, and immediately all their equipment led them to this one particular closet near the kitchen. And when they opened it up, in the closet was Ivan's toolbox, the same.
I ain't gonna lie. I would love, not really. I'm kind of lying, but I would love to like have one of those devices and just go around someone's house trying to find out what's making it beep. That sounds like fun. I like doing that. Like I was playing Dying Light 2. It has that art GRE. It has that little beeper that like shows up when you get close to one of those boxes. And I love just following it back to the box. It's like a little reward.
One the boy had been handling over the past couple of days. And when they opened that up, they found there were lots of normal tools you would expect inside of a toolbox,
Right.
and they discovered one strange piece of scrap metal. It was the only piece of scrap metal that Ivan had grabbed off the floor of that cellar and tucked in his pocket before he and his brothers had left. And then after Ivan had passed away, his stepson had been going through his things and he had discovered this piece of scrap metal, and for whatever reason, he had transferred it from the jacket to Ivan's toolbox. What Ivan and his family didn't know was that that piece of metal was extremely dangerous, because it came not from some abandoned building on some abandoned property in the middle of the forest.
Lol, sounds
It
like a
came
job
from
for a
an
pirate.
abandoned nuclear waste storage facility. That is what Ivan and his brothers had snuck up.
Is nuclear stuff radioactive? I'm pretty sure it is, right? Because Fallout 4. I tie everything in real life back to video games. Because like, wasn't Fallout 4 like a nuclear explosion? Now the stuff is radioactive. I'm assuming that means I was right. Radioactive. I'm smart. Big brain. I totally just hurt my temple. They are. It's all that I think all these games that are like stressing my brain just made me smart.
Gone to. But because Ivan and his brothers had hopped over that side fence, they didn't see any of the warning signs that are posted on the front of the front gates telling people to stay back.
Wait, why didn't
Warning
they see it?
Ivan and his brothers had hopped over that side fence. They didn't see any of the warning signs that are posted on the front of the front gates telling people to stay back. Inside that cellar that the brothers were in, those small metal briefcase looking things on the lower shelves were shields for radiation. Inside of each of them was radioactive metal. And when that full 55-gallon drum came crashing off the shelf and smashed into Ivan's leg, his leg was not the only thing it smashed into. It smashed into one of those metal briefcases and broke it open, sending the radioactive metal inside of it flying out, and it landed right next to Ivan on the ground. And so when the brothers scrambled to pick up whatever loose scrap metal there was on the ground, Ivan unfortunately grabbed one piece, and it was the radioactive was on the ground. Ivan unfortunately grabbed one piece, loose scrap metal.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
There was on the ground. Ivan unfortunately grabbed one piece.
One piece? Like like the One Piece reference. mr.ballen likes One Piece confirmed. One Piece reference. Hello. You know, now that I look at mr.ballen, he kind of got a little bit of a Roger mustache going, or in the works. And that's slick, mr.ballen. I see your references.
And it was the radioactive one. By the time Ivan finally got back to his house...
Wait, time? Is that a JoJo's reference?
He was
So
actually
many
already
anime
dead.
references.
He just didn't know it yet. That piece of metal had been inside of his jacket pocket, and it had been pressed against his body long enough that he had been dealt a fatal dose of radiation. There was nothing anybody could have done, even if they knew what had happened to him. As for the
Damn.
dog, it used to sleep on Ivan's jacket, and it did so
Damn.
when this piece of scrap metal was inside of it, and so it too died of radiation poisoning. As for Ivan's stepson, the reason his hands had been so badly burned and why he'd become so sick,
'Cause he
that was
touched it?
just from his brief exchange of touching the piece of scrap metal and then putting it in Ivan's toolbox. That alone had done that much damage to him. When the doctor...
That crazy that it didn't burn him like when you touched it. He just like grabbed it and it was like fine, and then all of a sudden he started blistering. We shouldn't have access to that type of stuff. We shouldn't have. That should be locked away into the center of the earth for no one to gain. 'Cause now we got nukes and shit. I ain't trying to live Fallout 4, bro. I ain't trying to get hit by Deathclaw. That sounds like it sucks.
Doctors considered the strangeness of Ivan's death, the dog's death, and now this boy's symptoms. They did suspect radiation poisoning, and so that was how the authorities were able to get to their house and very quickly locate that toolbox. Amazingly, Ivan's stepson and the rest of Ivan's family, including his two brothers, would make full recoveries. However, several months after this event, and after authorities had come in and said their house was clear of radiation, the grandmother would suddenly die, totally unexpectedly. She was healthy, nothing was wrong with her. And so even though it was not officially cited as having been caused by radiation, many people believe it's from the exposure she had to this piece of scrap metal.
The maze.
In 2017, 71-year-old Bernard Gore was a retiree living in Tasmania, which is an island state of Australia. In January of that year, he and his wife of 50 years, Angela, decided to go visit their daughter who lived in Sydney, Australia. Now, they made this trip with some regularity, and they developed a sort of routine for every time they visited. They would land in Sydney, and then the first day they would spend it entirely with their daughter at her house. And then the next day, Angela would get up early and she would head out into town and do some shopping on her own. And then sometime in the afternoon, Bernard would head out and he would meet up with her for lunch at a very popular spot. It was called the Westfield Center Mall, and they had an amazing food court. So on January 5th of that year, Bernard and Angela, they land in Sydney, and like they always did, they went straight to their daughter's house and they spent the day with her. And then early the next morning, Angela got up and she headed out to do her shopping. And before she left, she confirmed with her husband that they would meet up for lunch at Westfield Center Mall. Now, as it happened that day, Angela actually chose to do her shopping at Westfield Center Mall, and so she was there around lunchtime when she was supposed to meet Bernard. So when she looked at her watch and she realized it was time to meet him, she just simply stepped out of the shop she was in and headed over to the food court. And when she got there, she found their meeting spot. It was in front of one of their favorite restaurants, and she sat down and then she scanned around looking for her husband, but inside of this busy food court, she couldn't see him. And so she looked at her watch again and she realized she was a couple of minutes early, and so she grabbed a menu and she began looking for what she was going to order while she waited for him to show up. But
Unrelated note, completely, I'm not completely unrelated, but like, people be shopping by themselves. You know, I get the idea, like, you know, it's nice to shop by yourself, but like, I don't know, like going around looking at clothes by myself, that's kind of boring. Like Amazon shopping, sure, I can do that by myself, of course, but like I need like people to talk to when I'm looking at clothes. I feel like it makes it more interesting.
15 minutes would go by and Bernard would not show up.
Then again, they were married for like 50 years, so I can understand needing some space. I get it.
And so now he was late. And so Angela, at this point, she pulls her phone out and she
I'd probably
tries
get
calling
kidnapped
her
by
husband,
Father Time.
but he didn't answer.
What's that even
However,
mean?
that was kind of common for Bernard, so not necessarily a red flag. Angela would continue to try calling her husband for the next several minutes, and each time he would not answer. And so eventually Angela just gets frustrated and she's thinking to herself, you know, maybe he just got sidetracked and he's walking around the mall somewhere, because Bernard was known for being a big window shopper. And as soon as Angela thought that, she was like, that's got to be it. And it was so frustrating for her that he had just totally blown off their lunch date. And so she stands up, she abandons her table, she's totally annoyed, and she heads out into the main shopping area to go find her husband. And so she's walking along, looking in each of the windows, expecting to see her husband, and at the same time, she's looking over her shoulder back towards the food court to see if maybe Bernard had shown up. But after 30 minutes of wandering around kind of right near the food court and not seeing him anywhere, Angela thinks to herself, you know what? I bet he thought we were supposed to meet at our daughter's house first. And so he probably hasn't even left the house yet. I bet he's just there waiting for me. And so Angela, when she realizes this, she stops looking for him in the mall. She turns around and she begins walking towards the mall exit. But before she reaches the exit door, a terrifying thought crosses her mind. What if Bernard got confused and has no idea where he is right now? A recent...
Okay, before we figure out what's going on, what do you think is gonna happen? I think he got like Batman, you know. I think he got like crime dallied, where like he almost got to the mall, and like he got robbed. No, because it's daytime. I guess that doesn't make sense. But maybe he had like a stroke. Maybe he's like in the car and he's like dead. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like it gotta be something crazy. I feel like it's either something crazy or something like really sad. I feel like there's no in between. I feel like it's not gonna be like something like, oh yeah, he did a backflip and then he broke his ankle. You know? I feel like it's gonna be like, yeah, he did like something really sad.
unfortunate development for Bernard was that he was showing early signs of dementia. It hadn't fully taken a hold of him yet, but he was clearly starting to forget things that he shouldn't. And so as soon as Angela thought of this, she went from being annoyed with her husband to being very worried about her husband. And so she sped through those doors outside and speed walked all the way back to her daughter's house, which was not far from the mall. And the whole time she's walking, she's telling herself she's going to walk inside.
Maybe he's actually Batman and went to fight crime. I just seen it. Wait. Okay, wait. Okay. Once again, if he... Oh, I mean, he had to pass away, so rest in peace, Bernard. I could see it. He could be Batman. I could see it. Just shows up. No littering.
Taken a hold of him yet, but he was clearly starting to forget things that he shouldn't. And so as soon as Angela thought of this, she went from being annoyed with her husband to being very worried about her husband. And so she sped through those doors outside and speed walked all the way back to her daughter's house, which was not far from the mall.
Speed walked? I guess she's an older lady. I was gonna say, I'm running. That looks like the face of a crime fighter. I would actually be terrified if that man came down with like a Batman suit and just beat my ass. I don't even think I'll have the courage to fight back. But like, I'm bolting to my daughter's house. I'm not speed walking because like speed walking always so like it's so non-threatening. You know what I mean? I feel like speed walking is so non-threatening that it's threatening. I feel like if I saw someone speed walk to me, I'll get more scared than them running at me. Because like they're not that into this that they feel like they gotta get her like that. They're like, no, I can't take my time, but I'm in no rush. It's like, damn.
And the whole time she's walking, she's telling herself she's going to walk inside and she's going to see Bernard. He's going to be in the house.
That must be terrifying. She got to the house
and went inside and saw her daughter. Her daughter said, no, Dad left about 2 hours.
I can imagine Batman speed walking. I'll probably shit myself, but I can see it. Bro, if Batman, he had a superpower and his superpower was just speed walking. Like when he speed walked, it was like just crazy. Like that's it. There's no other explanation. When he just speed walk, it's crazy. Imagine committing crime and then he's just like, hey, I'll arrest myself. I'll make a citizen's arrest on myself. I'll turn myself in. I don't even need him to get close to me. I just need to see that from a distance. My bad. Hello, police. I did it, bro. Come get me. Batman speed walking. I don't even want to be here no more. Just pick me up. I'm not gonna fight it. All you see is Batman speed walking towards you, screaming vengeance. I think him screaming would be crazy. Him screaming vengeance would be crazy. I feel like Batman's just that dude where he can just be nonchalant and you'll be terrified. If I was sitting in a room with Batman, he could be like, "I like your shirt." I'm like, "You want it?" I'm like, I'll be terrified. I'd be like, "You want the receipt? Here, I bought it. I swear." I'll be, whew.
Hours ago to go meet you. I haven't seen or heard from him since. Now, of course, both of them were extremely worried for Bernard, but they decided to just stay calm, that the best thing they could do right now would just be to stay put, stay at their daughter's house, and wait for Bernard to eventually come back, because the only other logical place he would go would be his daughter's house. And so they sat at the house, just kind of waiting, looking at the door, waiting for him to come in. But he didn't, and by 8 p.m., 6 hours after anybody had last seen Bernard, he still had not shown up. They couldn't get in touch with him, and so Angela called the police and reported him missing. Immediately, the police contacted the Westfield Center Mall security team and said, "Hey, we're looking for this guy," and they went right down to the food court where Bernard and Angela had said they were going to meet, and the mall security team walked all around, and they walked into all the nearby shops and kind of scanned the immediate vicinity near their meeting spot, but they reported back to police that there was no sign of Bernard. And they would also tell police that after reviewing their camera footage, and this mall had hundreds of cameras covering every angle, inside and out, I mean, everything is covered. They would tell police, after reviewing the footage, we didn't see Bernard enter or exit the mall at any point today. He was not here. And so
So he can't. So he can't be in the mall. Like unless you on some Gregory type time and snuck into the Pizzaplex, there's no way for him to really be here. If they didn't see him come in or leave, okay, it's one thing not to see him leave, but it's a whole other thing not to see him come in.
police, they take this information and they go back to Angela that night and they say, "Hey, look, we talked to the mall, and based on their security footage, they have no record of Bernard ever being in the mall. Do you have any idea where he could have gone?" And Angela would say, "No, the only places would have been the mall or maybe at our daughter's house." This is also when Angela explained to police that her husband had early signs of dementia, and so it was possible that he might have just gotten confused and he could be out on the street somewhere. But she assured the police that her husband, whenever this happened, whenever he got confused, he would just sit down and he would try.
Yo, that fit kind of fire. I have a yellow flannel and I have a gray turtleneck. I might have to copy Bernard's fit for the one time. I might have to do it.
Try to ask for help from anybody passing by, or he
To
would just
pay
sit where
homage.
he was and he would wait for his family to come find him. And so with this knowledge, the police went back out and they widened their search and they began looking in all the areas that were within walking distance of the Westfield Center Mall. At the same time, Angela and her daughter began trying to retrace Bernard's footsteps from the daughter's home in the direction of the Westfield Center Mall to see if maybe there was something obvious along the route that might have sidetracked him and kind of led him astray, and that maybe he'd be somewhere else in those
He did go down
directions.
Crime Alley.
But as they were walking around, there really was nothing that stood out to them, and then eventually it just got too dark out, and they had to just turn it in and go back to their house and hope that the next morning when they got up, the police would have found Bernard and that he was okay. But the next morning when they got up, the police had not found Bernard. There was no sign of him. There was no clues, nothing. And unfortunately, over the next several weeks, there was no sign of Bernard. Nobody knew what happened to him. On January 27th, so 3 weeks after Bernard had gone missing, a maintenance worker at the Westfield Center Mall was walking down the staff-only passageway. It was basically like this tunnel with no windows, all concrete. It kind of looped around the outside of the mall to help workers get to and from certain locations in the building. He's walking
this is for
down
real, the
this
pizza place.
passageway when he looks down this one hallway that was very rarely used.
No. Okay, not a real photo. I was about to say, this is dark deception. I just seen this, bro. Okay. When I worked at this place called Burlington, it's like a clothes store. I was a security guard. I was really on my FNAF type time. I used to close, right? I'll close like maybe like it was like 11 when we were closed, and behind the store it was like the the like what do you call it, drop off, where like the trucks would drop off the packages, and then there would be like a door that led one like okay. So from the drop off there was this long hallway with only one door to like the janitor's closet, and then at the end there was like this big square, and then it led upstairs, and then there was also a door back into like the main store, and then there was a door outside. And I was walking down it because normally I was like, okay, I'll walk like towards the drop off because the drop off had more ways out. So I was like, okay, if some shit happens, I'm on my dark deception at the time, and I'm immediately out the door, right? And one day, for some reason, I walked from the. I think because my manager was talking to me to the way, like we were talking. You ever like talk with someone, and like you guys are kind of like that person kind of leading you in a certain direction because you guys are talking. She kind of led me to like the drop off area. So I was like, okay, I'm already here, so I might as well start here and head the other way. And I was walking right, and she disappeared, bro. She disappeared. I think she went up to her office, which was like in a whole different area, and it was just me walking this place by myself. And I heard this loud boom come from behind me in the supply area. I never, and like there's cameras there. I ran my ass off. I mean, I was running like I was being chased. I don't even know what fell. I didn't even turn around, to be honest with you. I just kept running. And when I tell you, I did not look back there again, bro. Someone could really be staying overnight at the store, hiding back there, and they got it. Because I ain't looking. I was not about to look back there no more.
And he sees at the end of it, barely lit up from the lights inside, there looks to be some equipment kind of propped up against the wall. And he's thinking to himself, there's no reason someone would leave their equipment at the end of this very rarely used hallway. It didn't make any sense. And so he decided to walk down and see whose equipment it
You
was.
are gonna
so
be purple guy's next bit of, bro. I'd be damned if I became purple guy's victim, bro. He's gonna have to work for it. He's gonna have to pull out a gun, because if he uses a knife, if he uses a knife, he has to either A, catch me off guard, B, really trick me and like some elaborate bullshit. But if I know he's there, if like I'm walking down that hallway, right? I'm walking, and we make eye contact. He's at the end of the hall. I'm at the other end. We just look at each other. I'm grabbing something, bro. A broom, a brick, a plank of wood, something. He's catching something. If I disarm him, if I get that knife off of him, bro, it's wraps. If I get that knife off of him, he is done. There is no coming back. I'm gonna make him the victim. I guarantee it. I guarantee. If Purple Guy came up to me and I managed to get that knife out of his hand, he is going to see Satan that day. Call me Amazon Prime the way I'm doing same day delivery. What was that line from FNAF? But from one of you, the darkest pit of hell has opened up to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting. We're done with that shit. I promise.
His way down, and he's getting closer and closer.
I'm Batista bombing him.
And he still can't quite figure out what it is. The lighting's not great, but when he gets close enough to see what it is, he stops where he is, he turns around, and he runs back down the hallway. He finds the nearest exit, he goes outside, and he calls the police. Back on January 6th, on the day that Bernard and Angela were supposed to meet up for lunch, Bernard did leave his daughter's house, and he walked straight to the mall, and he got there. He arrived at the Westfield Center Mall and was picked up on camera walking into their food court. But the...
Didn't they just say that they didn't see him go into the mall? How? How did they... What? What? Oh, I'm suing. I'm suing. Bro, they literally said they didn't see him go in. Sure. Maybe he didn't have a way... Maybe they didn't see him go in. But I'm assuming they're looking on the camera to see if he's somewhere on these cameras. Even if they got hundreds, bro. We're talking about a person's life at stake. Like, even if he wasn't dead, what if he, like, broke his ankle? And, like, you're just stuck there.
Staff at the mall who reviewed the footage for police, they only looked at a handful of cameras. There's hundreds of cameras. They only looked at a couple, and so they missed this crucial...
bro, bro. Didn't Angela say that she was gonna meet him at the food court? Wouldn't you think that would be the one place you checked for sure? If I was a security guard or not, if I was a cop and she was like, "Oh, we're supposed to meet here at the food court," I'd be like, "Okay, I'm going to check to see if he came here when you left. Like when you left, I'm gonna make sure if he actually ever came to this food court. Why would I check fucking Hot Topic instead of checking the one place that I knew for sure he had the goal to get to?"
Footage of Bernard. And what the footage would have shown them was Bernard making his way into the food court ahead of Angela. Angela's nowhere to be found.
Okay.
And Bernard, instead of sitting down at their meeting spot in front of this restaurant, Bernard suddenly looks like he's confused and he turns and he walks to this emergency exit door. He presses it in, he steps inside, and the door shuts behind him. Now, the Westfield Center Mall is not your average mall, it is massive. There are 6 floors to it, nearly 300 shops and restaurants. But what truly makes it massive is something that the public doesn't usually see. And that is behind staff-only doors and emergency exit doors like the one Bernard had just gone through are nearly 8 miles of windowless concrete narrow stairwells and tunnels that loop all around the outside.
Yeah, yeah. This is the Pizzaplex. This is the Pizzaplex. If I was trapped in there at night by myself, I'm pissing myself. I'm hiding in a corner and I'm pissing myself. Either that, I'm someone's getting attacked. Someone's catching hands. I don't care if you're a security guard. If you're out here roaming around without making yourself known, I'm sorry. You're getting that William Afton treatment.
Of the building. And once Bernard had gone through that emergency exit door and that door had shut and locked behind him, the only way for him to return to the food court and meet his wife would be if he completely exited the mall and looped all the way back around. But in order to exit the mall from where he just entered, he would need to go to a very specific exterior fire exit door that was several floors below him, and to get to it required following this very confusing signage on the walls. And so if you did it correctly, you would basically go down the hallway, find this particular stairwell, you'd go down a couple of levels, and then at some point, without really any signage, you would get to the appropriate floor and you'd go down the hallway into this maze of more hallways, and then finally you'd reach this kind of nondescript exit door, and that would be your exit. Finding your way from where Bernard entered all the way to the exit of the mall would be challenging for someone thinking clearly, and clearly Bernard was not. Bernard was confused and likely really didn't understand where he was or what he was doing or why he was there, and so he did not follow these directions. Instead, he just began wandering down the hallway, and he would have immediately passed the one stairwell that would have very circuitously brought him down but out of the building. He passed that stairwell and he just kept on walking, and eventually he walked into this staff-only area, which was even more confusing because there was no signs telling him where to go, and virtually every door he encountered would have been locked. And so as Bernard wandered through this concrete maze and got more and more mixed up and confused, he most likely began yelling out for help. But his sound could not have penetrated the walls, which means the only people who could have heard his cries would have been people inside the hallway with him. And unfortunately, this section of tunnels that Bernard had found himself in was rarely, if ever, used by any of the staff. And to make matters worse, the mall security guards were supposed to come in and do regular checks of all these 8 miles of tunnels and stairwells, specifically to see if people got lost in them. But over time,
I have a very important question. Why would they put the lock going into the mall and not going into the security? You see what I'm saying? You think that you would put the lock going into the place that you're not supposed to be instead of leaving the place you're not supposed to be. That would be like closing a store, but locking it so it locks when you after you already go in, so you can't leave. Instead of locking it so you can't go in. You see what I'm saying? You think that that would be the case. So why would they even put the locks on the inside? It's facts. It's backwards. Like, bro, imagine you forgot your key, right? And then you open the door, you're like let's say it's your first week. You open that door and you're like, oh, I forgot my key, damn it. And you're like, well, let me see if they left it unlocked. And it opens like, oh, it's unlocked. Oh, easy. And then you walk in, right? And you're like, oh shoot, I forgot my drink. Turn around. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. That ain't right. That just worked, right? That would just work, bro. I would be, I would be livid, livid if I was stuck in here, bro. I don't care who you are that found me. I don't care if you have anything to do with me getting stuck in there. You could be a firefighter, a cop, a goddamn Paw Patrol. Chase could walk in here and be like, "Oh, we're here to save you." Nah. I'm ready to fight everyone. Everyone is catching flack, especially those security guards, bro. Like, do your job. Like,
Security guards kind of stopped doing that. And there were no security cameras inside of this particular segment of tunnels that Bernard found himself in. And there was no cell phone reception, so had he tried calling anyone, it wouldn't have worked. And so truly, Bernard was on his own. And so after several hours or days of Bernard aimlessly wandering around this maze, hitting dead end after dead end and reaching locked door after locked door, Bernard at some point turned a corner and looked down at the end of a hallway, and he saw there was a chair up against the side of the wall. And like he was programmed to do anytime he got confused, he rushed over to it and he sat down and he began waiting for a passerby to help him or his family to find him. But unfortunately, help never came, and he would eventually pass away on that chair. On January
I
27th,
told you, bro.
as a maintenance
Sad.
worker, he discovered Bernard's body. Following his
wait, the 20s. Wait, didn't he say this? They when you were on the sixth, the sixth or like the fifth or something? That's nuts. That's crazy. That's beginning of January towards the end of January. He's been there for weeks.
his death, the Westfield Center Mall came out and said they made drastic changes to their security system and how they track people while they're on their property. So that's going to do it, guys. If you got something out of today's episode,
This is legit FNAF, bro. That's some FNAF ass PR response. I wouldn't be surprised that man if they had animatronics or some shit and the animatronics ate him. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised in the slightest because that's not like a FNAF PR response. Oh, we'll try better with our security and AI. We'll make sure that we can track people on their property. Man, rest in peace, everyone in this video, bro.
and you haven't done this already, please offer to do the like button's eyeliner, but use a wide tip black Sharpie. Also, please subscribe to our channel.
See what I'm saying, bro? He just told us this sad ass story. Okay, the other two, yes, they were sad that someone lost their life, but it wasn't as heart wrenching as Bernard, bro. Bernard genuinely didn't do anything to put himself in this situation. Like, he didn't really do anything to really warn himself in this situation. Not saying like the other two did, really. I mean, like, what was the first guy's name? I forgot his name, but like he knew this job was dangerous, you know. And like maybe he didn't expect that was the way he was gonna go out, but he chose a dangerous job. So if I was like a scuba diver or some shit, or like a bell diver or whatever, I accept the idea of like me drowning. I accept the idea of like, yeah, my job is dangerous. Or like if I was like some kind of skydiving instructor, I understand I have a dangerous job. The second guy, he just straight up stole, you know. I mean, like he kind of, not saying that he should have died, but like he put himself in a bad situation by stealing. But Bernard just genuinely just got like confused, bro. He had no control of that. He just got confused and walked into the wrong place. And it wasn't like he walked to the wrong place and like, you know, he just refused to open the door or something like, or he went to like this really weird back alleyway and like he got lost. He just walked in, and once he walked in, it was basically done. He was basically done. There's nothing he could do after he walked in that door. And then now I gotta listen to mr.ballen talk about giving the like button the wide tip Sharpie or some shit.
And turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 1 or 2 video uploads. We are now selling merchandise like flannels and hats and all sorts of stuff. If you're interested, go to shopmrballen.com.
Also got some ballin' merch. Let's wash out the sad day, or this sad ending with Mr. Ballen merch. Where is it? Oh, you put the sources too? Damn. Oh, he used big search. Oh, wow. He got like 5 sources for one part. Nah, that's crazy. Shop Mr. Ballen. Let's do it. Let's shop Mr. Ballen. Shop Mr. Ballen. It's just a sad story. Coming soon. I'm sorry. That can't be right. Let's see. Instagram. Okay. Strange, dark, and mysterious. If I ever did merch, I don't know if I can put like a realistic render of my face like this, you know? I feel like it would have to be like a cartoony version or like some kind of animated version, but I couldn't do like that. The hat's kind of fire. All right. Well, we've been streaming for about 3 hours and 52 minutes. That's a pretty good amount of time. About 10:25 now. Started around like 6:30. We had a good stream. It was a good stream. Just to recap. So first, we started with Into the Gungeon. We made it pretty far. We did a lot of progress. We did really good. Then we did. What did we do after that? We did Crab Game. Did not get to play a single game actually. No, I think we did, but I think we immediately died. Then we played Dark Deception. We beat it in under 30 minutes, so I'm kind of goated, we did our thing. Then we went to Mr. Ballen. We had a very sad video, but if we had to take anything from it, it was don't go doing dumb shit, you know. I mean, of course, Bernard doesn't count. Rest in peace, Bernard. And rest in peace to everyone else. I'm not saying that you should have died for that, but just make sure you don't. There's nothing wrong with an adventure, but make sure you do your adventures safely. This ain't an anime. We can't just survive that shit. Alright, well, this is the end of the stream, everyone. Thank you for watching. I will probably be live some other day. Make sure to follow me on social media if you're watching this on the VOD. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to follow on Twitch. Catch me live. Being here in the comments when we happen. There'll probably be some parts edited out. Good stream, W stream. Yo, Flash been here since the very beginning. So if you want to come talk to me or Flash, join the Twitch. Twitch.tv/LightningShogun. And I'll see you guys